I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for October 10th, 2023 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everyone. We'll start off going down our agenda with a roll call of commission members, please.
Carrie?
She's not here.
Walton?
Here.
Kimball?
Present.
Stephenson?
Here.
Ward? Schlotthauer?
Here. All right, thank you. Next item is ceremonies, announcements, appointments, and presentations. Looks like we have a couple items here.
Yeah, so the first one's kind of a little bit on a fun note. It's National Porter Day, and it's not porter, the beer porter. It's actually, that's May 9th, so you gotta wait till 2024. But yeah, so that's the first name and last name porter, so it's a gatekeeper. The next one is also World Homeless Day. So the purpose of this day is to bring focus on the issues of homelessness and inadequate housing. Activists raise awareness and the need to provide opportunities for communities to get involved in responding to homelessness. Inflated property rates, coupled with disproportionate of poor wages and irregular work opportunities, are the reasons why so many people find themselves without homes.
Okay.
And part of the role, too, with how this kind of ties in with planning is to deal with and trying to create diversified housing. And we've done some workshops on missing middle housing and trying to get different tiers of housing. So to kind of address some of the housing needs.
Definitely. All right. I'm sure it already happened, but please note that Commissioner Carey is in attendance.
Sorry.
No worries. All right. Do we have any amendments to the agenda tonight?
There's none.
All right, commission members, any declaration of conflict, ex parte contacts, site visits?
None. None.
All right, none. Next item is our consent calendar.
Yeah. Action item A is the meeting minutes from September 12th, 2023. Action item B is the planning and zoning workshop minutes from September 26th, 2023.
Okay. Everybody get a chance to read those and review those, and if so, entertain a motion, please.
I've moved to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Okay,
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we take roll call, please?
Walton?
Yes.
Carrie? Yes. Kimball?
Yes.
Stephenson?
Yes.
Schlotthauer?
Yes. All right. Next item is citizen issues. So this part of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on an issue that is not on the agenda tonight. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes, and comments related to pending public hearings or decisions that are being appealed by city council are out of order at this time and should be held for that public hearing. Repeating comments are also out of order, and comments regarding city employees are inappropriate at this time and should be directed to the mayor. Do we have anybody in the audience that has anything they would like to speak about tonight? All right. Next item is unfinished or old business. Do we have anything there?
There's none.
Nothing. All right. So that'll take us into the meat of the meeting here. We'll start with our public hearings. First public hearing tonight will be Copper Basin Prairie Annex, file number ANNX-23-1, and John Manley will present that. We'll open the hearing.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Manley, Planning Manager here at the City of Post Falls, presenting the Copper Basin Prairie Annexation, case file ANNX-23-3. So the owner of this property is Copper Basin Construction, with the applicant being Drew Dittman of Lake City Engineering. What you see there is that requested action, that bolded zoning recommendation. That there is the role that the Planning and Zoning Commission plays with the annexation request. You recommend zoning to council, of which council then will take that recommendation as part of their review, and council could choose to go by that. They may go and propose a lesser zone, or they may approve as presented. But that decision is done at the city council. What they're asking for with this request is they're looking for a recommendation to council for the mix of high-density residential R3 on 14 acres, approximately, with the remaining acres of the 20-acre annexation request being the community commercial service zoning district. One thing I do want to be fully transparent on as part of the notification of this, the notification did meet the requirements for this request. It is a recommendation. Council is going to make that decision. Like I stated, there was a small typo in the notice where it referenced single family R3, but the district was correct, the description was correct, the mapping was correct, and it met all the elements for meeting the notification. So I just want to be transparent. That did occur in this notification. I did confer with legal on this before proceeding on with this evening. So here is the requested site here, and I kind of show the map. This is the notification map that went out to the general public. You see the location north of Prairie between Greens Ferry Road and Cecil Road here, and you see the 14 acres being the northern 14 acres there, with that remaining balance there being adjacent to Prairie Avenue south of that proposed R3 zoning district. Kind of already went over the location, but it is about 2/3 a mile west of Highway 41 and about 1/3 of a mile east of the Greens Ferry Road. Currently, it's vacant, undeveloped. It is over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. Water service provider for this would be the Ross Point Water District, with wastewater being provided by the City of Post Falls. Surrounding land uses and zoning, you see here to the north and east that there is currently vacant, undeveloped lot that is part of the, what you see here, the red hatched angled pattern here to the north and east. That's a TM zone, technology mix zone. The plan for that, and as adopted, is the area surrounding this predominantly along this area is intended to be all multifamily within that current plan for that site, with everything east of Cecil Road being more of your job creation, industrial, mix of commercial type uses in that tech mix zone. To the west of this proposed annexation, you see currently the 5-acre lots and 10-acre lots. That location, we will move on here. That was annexed recently as the Joseph Family Trust, and there's the file number for that annexation. There's a mix of zones that went with that. You see the CCS, and that was restricted to doing more storage type uses at that location, and that's what they're intending to do there. To the south of there, you have the commercial mix, the CCM zone. They intend to, on part of that, is to do mixed use of some commercial, industrial, flex type uses in there. To the south of the proposed site, I kind of have the highlight green cloud. There is currently on the south side of this proposal, you see this commercial industrial rec building that would be adjacent opposite of Prairie Avenue. And you can see the CCS zone along the opposite side as well. That kind of hones you in on the surrounding area of this proposal. Now going into the review criteria for zoning and assigning zoning. Look here is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus areas contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan. So you can see here, there's the proposed site. It's out of the city. Right here on the future land use map, that blue, that's transitional. And as the comp plan was adopted, the timing of some of these areas was unknown. And so it basically punts to the focus areas to providing guidance. I will note here, you can see the red hatch. That's an identified commercial node on the future land use map, and of which you can see that as it got implemented, you can see the zoning around that node are predominantly commercial in nature. So you can see how an adopted comprehensive plan kind of leads to zoning districts and zoning assignments as time goes on. So going on to the referred focus area, this is in the 41 North focus area, and I kind of highlight the general location there on the map. Some of the guiding principles on that is, one is it was estimated that you would see significant population growth in this area. It anticipated in the comp plan that as many as 30,000 new residents may live in that corridor by 2040. And in that, it said focus provisions for multifamily, commercial, and tech uses near higher classified roadways, which Prairie Avenue would be that. Development should provide pedestrian connectivity to all multi-use paths and trails, including the Prairie Trail. So the reference tech park that was just off to the north and east, they will be providing the Prairie Trail connection through at some point in time from their eastern limits to the west. And then with road improvements and with other design standards, this project and this development area ultimately in the future would have connection to the Prairie Trail, as well as other multi-use trails that are developed along our major roadways. The other element is focus provisions for commercial uses along arterial collector streets where traffic volumes exceed 4,000 vehicles today, which would be consistent with Prairie Avenue. Now looking at review criteria 2, it goes into looking at the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. So here we got 4 goals to highlight here. Grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity and physical health, looking to improve the transportation network and on pace and in concert with the need and plan's objectives. Looking at planning and establishing types of quantities of land uses in Post Falls, supporting communities' needs and long-term sustainability, and well as looking at the fiscal health again here with Goal 12. Policies help implement the goals. So moving into the policies, here you see the maintain and enhance community level of service, foster long-term fiscal health of the community. Oftentimes, those are met with zoning assignments and zoning designations, getting the improvements, getting walkable communities, getting communities that are connected to their parks, compatible land uses that are supporting each other and not having incompatible uses. It kind of stresses the importance of the comp plan and meeting the comp plan and getting the right zoning assigned. Kind of goes into maintaining, enhancing residential quality of life with the lands that developed in the city. Promote compatible and well-designed development and implement the goals and policies in the plan. Once again here, I kind of want to highlight, so these uses in this area are in a fairly close proximity to the future regional park at this location. Once again, highlight the Prairie Trail. We do have a mix of commercial uses. There will be, sometime in the future, job creations in the area. So looking into the future, more than likely you would end up seeing more of a work-live type play area up here with compatible uses in the general vicinity. All of which goes into kind of meeting the highlighted portions in Policy 2 as well. Kind of already talked about the first 2 elements of Policy 2. Policy 2 being apply and revise zoning designations, looking at these factors. So discuss the future land use, discuss the compatibility of the surrounding land uses. The next few slides go into the next elements of this, though, looking at the infrastructure and service plans, as well as the existing and future traffic patterns, all of which these are to meet the ultimate goals and policies in the comp plan. So infrastructure and service plans. So it's highlighted in the staff report that there is the ability to service this site. There is a note that where about that star is, that's about where you would be connecting server services to this along that southern limits of that project. There's also a note in the staff report. There is options for different basins, potentially, depending on whether or not they do the certain sewer studies, in which if there's questions, Mr. Rob Paulus, Assistant City Engineer, is here to talk more in detail or answer any questions on that aspect of it. But it is a serviceable site as noted in our staff report. Looking at the existing and future traffic patterns of this policy. As usual with annexations, we get the additional right-of-way with annexations so we can address the dedication of sidewalk, drainage, utility easement, and comply with the adopted city design standards. It is important, though, with that, with our access points, that the main access point from the south, about where that star is, would be off of Lynn Street into this project site. You would get additional east-west connectors that would complement and tie into future development also on that. There's a note here, though, that the access onto Prairie would have that 3/4 turn restriction. Now, policy 8 and 9 are pretty much similar in nature. One's encouraging infill development. The other one is encouraging county islands, of which this meets both of them. It would be considered infill, and it is a existing county island surrounded by incorporated cities on all sides. The next two are grouped together because you get to the same place with annexations with that. You get, with annexations, you get the necessary right-of-way to get the compatible infrastructure, whether it's a sidewalk or multi-use trail, and the road improvements from that proportionate share. And so you get both policy 24 and 26 often met with annexations and development. And I don't want to forget, you also get any sort of easements and utilities corridors needed to meet the long-term vision for the community. Policy 33 and policy 45, they're really dealing with the annexation decision itself, and that would be go before city council. So these slides are more or less a placeholder for when it goes to that decision to annex, and they're looking at those items to consider that you see up there. Third criteria, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon delivery of services by any political subdivision providing public services within the city? That's where the notice of jurisdiction and getting comments from other agencies is important, because it helps us assess, is there any, do we hit this criteria? Is any concerns with this? So there's our general list that we notice. Here's the, I think that was the comments we got. So school district, they remain neutral. CUNY County Fire, they were going to hold their comments at the time of development. Panhandle Health, they acknowledged that upon annexation and development, you'd be on sanitary sewer, which really wouldn't be their jurisdiction at that point, and the highway district was in favor. So, in looking at that, we would say that there was nothing from our notice of jurisdiction, nothing from another public agency that demonstrated a demonstrable adverse impact. So there's once again the 3 criteria that kind of we loosely went over here, or went over. And then, do you have any questions for me?
Any questions?
No.
I had a couple, actually.
Yeah.
Do we know how much R3 is under construction or is approved right now?
Oh.
And of the stuff that is ready to be lived in? Do we know the vacancy rate?
The vacancy rate I know for R3 is, last I heard, less than 2%. I do know that of the R3 that we have, that the predominant nature of it, most of it has been built out. We do have some special use elements. So we have Amelia Apartments out on the West Post Falls that's east of, so when you go drive to the west, you see Amelia Phase 1, that's complete. On the west side of it, that's Apartments 26. And so they're soon, what I've just recently heard is they're going to be going on to Phase 2 soon. And then after that, they have the east part, Phase 2 of Amelia Apartments. So that's on the east side out there. So that was done through a special use permit.
Okay.
Up Highway 41, I believe that's on this map. Tullamore, south of, I think, yeah, so right here at this location, they do have a future multifamily site at that location that they'll be doing south of the new school there. There's a large land holding you can see there, so that it's going to be a future multifamily project. And then outside of that, we have North Place East at this point. Northern tier, it was approved for some multifamily at some future date. You know, less than 15 years from now, they'll do that phase, 15 or 20, maybe shorter. Montrose, you know how long Montrose has been here?
Mm-hmm.
They have sections of Montrose that's approved for multifamily, like north of the bowling alley, east of. They've never developed that. So that's the thing is sometimes you get these master plans, they're approved for it, but 20, 25 years later, you may not see that. I think it was Fieldstone when it developed. It did all of its single family first, but I think the last phase they did was their multifamily, which was more than likely 12 to 15, 16 years after the beginning of that project. East of 41, outside of what's currently being wrapped out there by, I think, Lance Douglas, I'm not aware of a lot of multifamily being developed currently. I do know that there's more than likely future applications for a request, but that's be for a future application.
Okay. And then with the tech park, knowing that some high density residential going there, has there been any indication of the tech park as far as the commercial side of it and jobs? Any movement there?
Yeah, there's been some preliminary discussions, and I think at this point in time we're looking at how are we gonna, the appropriate means of servicing sewer to that project so we can get through that aspect of it to allow the developer to go through some sort of construction plan approval to lead to a subdivision plan and plat approval for that. The timing of that, I do not know. I've not heard at this time a preliminary schedule to get that on board or when that's going to come online.
Okay.
I do know that the owner of this, and when the applicant comes up, can verify that the individual seeking this annexation is the same owner that would be more than likely developing the bulk of the multifamily to the north and east. That would allow the opportunity for that to look like a common project. And an advantage of that is we do have open space requirements with multifamily. We used to not. We now do have so many square feet per unit. So it brings an opportunity to get more shared spaces potentially and meet some of those requirements for quality of life elements.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
We'll invite the applicant up for his presentation.
There you go.
You know the routine, just name and address for the record, please.
Chairman Stephenson, Commissioners, Drew Dittman, Lake City Engineering, 126 East Poplar Avenue in the city of Coeur d'Alene. Appreciate your time tonight. John and my presentation are very similar, so I'm just going to touch on a few of the key elements that I think he did not. Again, 20-acre annexation north of Prairie between Greens Ferry and Highway 41. You may remember we brought this before you guys about 2-3 years ago. before the property to the west had annexed, we received unanimous approval from this board to annex it. We got in front of council. They weren't quite ready to annex it. It was during the Highway 41 when that was first starting and all of that. And so we paused and didn't. We're back here now because basically we're a county island now. We've been completely surrounded by annexed property. Highway 41 is obviously complete. And so it seems the appropriate time to annex this property. As John had indicated, Copper Basin Construction, the owner of it, does own these two parcels to the north and to the northeast, which are part of that tech park. That is to the north and to the northeast, which are part of that tech park. That is where the multifamily component of the tech park is going to go. So by annexing this in and getting that R3 zone, as John had indicated, allows us to do a little bit bigger project, allows us to get some more open space, makes it more continuous with the uses that are there. You've got the commercial uses to the west with the mini storage. You got the industrial commercial uses kind of at the intersection there of Greens Ferry. So this just seems to be a great fit for the uses that are surrounding it. John went through this. This is the 3 approval for zoning approvals. So I'll just go through it real quick. Couple of things I want to touch on that he probably didn't. Is it in conformance with the future land use map? Yes, it is. It's designated transitional, which defers you to the focus areas. And again, this is the Highway 41 North focus area. Identical slide to what John had. He went through this, but it talks about provisions for multifamily and commercial uses adjacent to your higher classification roadways. Obviously, Prairie Avenue is a principal arterial, so it's a much higher classified road. Talks about the creation of backage roads to help alleviate some of that traffic. So if you go back and look at, I guess it doesn't show it on here, but basically the northern 2/3 we're asking for R3, the southern third we're asking for CCS. That is, we've been working with the people that own the property to the west. That's kind of where that commercial access road is going to go, is about 330 feet north of Prairie. You'll see a parallel backage commercial access road that'll run parallel to Prairie Avenue. That made a great defining point for zone for us, and so that's why we've kind of zoned it or asking to zone it the way we are. And then talks about provisions for commercial uses along arterials and collectors. Again, Prairie is that arterial road. Goals and policies of the comp plan, I've just listed a bunch there. John went through them, did a great job. A couple that he didn't have in his, but we've had in our narrative. Goal number 2 talks about maintaining and improving the provisions of high quality, affordable, and efficient services. Again, this is in conformance with the future land use map. There are utilities in place to serve it, sewer, water. I talked about some of the surrounding uses. This project would mesh well with those surrounding uses with the approved multifamily already to the north and the northeast. It'll provide additional housing options as well as commercial uses in close proximity to those housing uses. Policy 20 in the comp plan talks about the location of multifamily development in areas that have great access. We've talked about that to help buffer higher and lower intensity development. So again, you've got mini storage proposed to the west. You've got some commercial and industrial proposed at the corner of Greens Ferry and Prairie. And then you've got multifamily units already approved to the north and the east. So this seems to make sense there. Abuts compatible existing uses. Again, we just talked about that. Policy 27, work to improve street connectivity in all areas, improving walkability, health, safety, and transportation efficiency. I talked about that backage road going through there and why we're split zoning it the way we are. John talked about the Prairie Trail, and when we do develop multifamily, obviously we'll have trail connections going to the north to that trail. And then zoning criteria number 3 talks about demonstrable adverse impacts. Again, this was in the staff report. John went through it. There are no known adverse impacts. These are the agencies that are affected. You should have letters in the file, I think, from most of those agencies. So there are 2 proposed conditions, if you will, or suggested conditions in the staff report. One talks about water rights and the other talks about right-of-way dedication. Those are both acceptable to the applicant. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you guys might have.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Did you say the plans are to develop this piece along with the other R3 that's already been approved?
Yeah, so it's the same owner. So there's 2
Yeah.
parcels up here, about 44 acres that Copper Basin owns, as well as this piece.
So it'll just be all together?
It would be, yeah, and we don't have any kind of plan for it yet,
Yeah.
but it will be developed as one project.
one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
So really, the timing hasn't been determined at this point. You're just trying to get everything situated.
Trying to get everything situated, like I said, it seems appropriate. The property to the west just recently got annexed. We're a county island. Before we got too far in planning the parcels that we already do have annexed, it would make sense to try to get this in so that we can create that larger uniform project.
Any other questions? All righty.
Thank you.
All right, next, public testimony. So if anybody, I know we have some people already. If anybody else wants to speak, make sure you fill out the paperwork in the back, bring it up front. You can bring that stuff up. Just one? All right. All right, we just have one comment, not wishing to speak in opposition. James, I'm going to butcher this last name. Van Trout. I've lived in Post Falls my whole life, graduated Post Falls High School in '97. The next year is when the existing high school was built. Now my daughter's attending the school that is overcrowded. Dense population building is hurting us in the future. And now more need for infrastructure and for a better community. Thank you. All right. Is there any other public comment for this hearing? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Dittman, you can come up and rebuttal to that.
Drew Dittman,
like.
for the record. I want you, James, or Chairman, you asked about the vacancy rate in apartments. And I was talking to John in the hallway before the hearing. I was actually talking to my client today about this. Copper Basin Construction owns lots of apartments in Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Spokane Valley, Spokane area. They have a vacancy rate of between 3% and 4% currently. And that's not even vacancy, that's more or less turnover rate. Someone moves out of an apartment project to move into another one, a unit sits empty for a month while they clean it, paint it, do whatever before somebody comes in. So their average vacancy rate, and I'm seeing that, I represent a lot of clients that own apartments, and I'm seeing that across the board currently. So vacancy rates are still very, very low for multifamily projects. So I meant to bring that up beforehand, but I forgot, so. Anything else for me?
Anything else? I don't think so. Thank you. All right, close out the hearing, and we'll go into our review criteria. All right, criteria 1, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained currently adopted by Post Falls Comprehensive Plan? What does the commission think?
Appears as though it is.
Oh, yeah, it's right along with everything else that's zoned around it, so it fits right in there.
Right, I see this as an area, if you were to look at the map and take this entire, really the entire square mile, the entire section, and look at anything other than what's being proposed, it would probably be a mistake because of the uses around it. So we've got commercial, we've got tech, we've got multifamily, all of those higher intensity uses in this area. And although they're not developed right now, they're not currently under construction or developed at that point, they're currently zoned for that with plans to move forward.
Yeah, I agree. Next.
Just to kind of help, I know we're still new with these criteria. On that first one, if you could just talk about a little bit of what the focus area is and what in that focus area.
The parts of the focus area that apply.
Yeah.
So there's so it's the Highway 41 corridor focus area, and as well as the transitional designation. So the transitional designation generally says that look at the surrounding land uses, and it should, or surrounding zoning and land uses, and should generally fall in line with those. And the Highway 41 focus area talks about having commercial and higher intensity uses within that corridor. It talks about multifamily being appropriate in that corridor, commercial being appropriate in that corridor. And so all of those things are met with this proposal.
Thank you.
Criteria 2, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan that are relevant to the area under consideration?
So this is really what goals and policies do you think are relevant, and what facts in the record support or go against that?
So there's goals and policies surrounding keeping a mix of housing types. Obviously, there is a low vacancy rate in multifamily right now, and a very high demand for that. So this would go towards satisfying that goal. Let's see, we can just.
I was going to add, like, policy 2 is kind of
Please.
in line with what you were talking about, Ray. Future land use, so we've talked about that. Compatibility with the surrounding land areas. The zoning request for this one is going to match what's around it. We talked about infrastructure for that area, and then the traffic pattern. There's been lots of improvements to, obviously, 41 and then Prairie in that area, and we'll continue to have improvements as things are developed over there.
Right. There's also policy 9, which encourages annexation of county islands, prioritizing those, encourage compatible infill development, and with it, it's not really necessarily infill, but it is filling in a hole of county zoning inside the city. It does help with policy 33 with implementing the transportation master plan by dedicating right-of-way for Prairie Avenue, which is a excuse me, which is a principal arterial and a very important part of our transportation master plan. I could probably go on. There's a whole bunch more in the staff report and the city or and the applicant's narrative, but I think that covers enough.
Yep.
And the final one here, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of the services by any political subdivision providing public services within the city?
Well, I think to that end, there's been no testimony that demonstrates any adverse impact, nor is any of the letters from the agencies brought up any adverse impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's roughly
None.
15 to
shown.
18
25.
agents. 25, okay. Oh,
Right.
and of the ones that did respond, nothing was outlined and no public testimony, so I think that's good. All right. Any commissioner comments on this? Discuss this. I think we're all in the same boat here. From a zoning perspective specifically, I think it makes sense. Hopefully we can I like this one because we can get hopefully some more businesses in there. I know some people are against R3, but we do need a variety of housing. So this one just happens to be R3. Sounds like our vacancy rates are very low, but the city's gonna continue to grow and we gotta do it smartly. Hopefully we can get a variety of housing in here. Any other thoughts?
That looks good.
All right.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, somebody would like to make a motion?
I'll give it a shot. I move to recommend approval of Copper Basin Prairie Annexation File number ANNX-23-3, finding that it meets the approval criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code as outlined in our deliberation, and direct staff to prepare
Recommendation.
a recommendation to City Council. I gotta look, I'm sorry, I was writing notes. with zoning of mixed high-density multifamily and CCS, with the inclusion of items 1 and 2 recommended and noted in the staff report.
All right, we have a motion on the floor,
Second.
and we have a second. Take roll call, please.
Schlosshauer,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
All right. That will move on to city council. All right, next public hearing. If I can find the name. Is it DeAtley Annex, file name ANNX 23-1, and we'll open that hearing.
Evening, Commissioners. Ethan Porter, Associate Planner with the City of Post Falls, here to present the DeAtley Annexation, file number ANNX 23-1. The owner of this property, the subject site, is Matt DeAtley with Yukon Corporation. The applicant was Devin Meacham, here to present on their behalf. The requested actions, you can see there, as John mentioned in the first presentation, there's a zoning recommendation that you'll be giving to City Council, dependent on your decision, but they want to have a zoning designation of community commercial services on approximately 5 acres as part of an annexation request in the City of Post Falls, and they're hoping that you would recommend the zoning that they propose to City Council. Looking where the subject site is, the northeast corner of Celtice Way and Pleasant View Road. So you can see it there hatched in red. It's right on the corner there. And that goes across the Celtice Way right away. As you can kind of see, it's included. That's just extra annexed area that was not initially incorporated in the city, so that is included with this request as well. Currently, the land use is vacant. It's not developed currently. And the physical characteristics or the natural features on the site include it's above the Rathrum and Prairie aquifer. Nothing else has been presented or provided forward to show anything else kind of hindering or significance for the site. The water and wastewater for this area would be the City of Post Falls. And then we look at some of the surrounding zoning and land uses. Its subject site is hatched in black there that you can see. North, we can see that there's railroad right-of-way, and then just north of that is a vacant industrial zoned land there. To the west, we have across Pleasant View Road the commercial property that is undeveloped at this point in time, and then further west you have that triangle gray piece, which is industrial, which would be Far West Steel being developed currently, that you can see if you go out there. But south across Celtice Way, you have the commercial zoning there. That's the old surplus store. Currently, a commercial business is operating out of it now as they purchased it. They do have an approved site plan to develop that site as well. And then to the east, you have Boulder Court commercial subdivision, so that's commercial lots there to the east. And so that kind of gives you the aspect of kind of what's around zoning and land use wise. And then we look at the first review criteria for annexation and looking at the proposed zoning district being consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the comprehensive plan. Right now it is designated for the future use of commercial. And you can see the red there, what's within the hatched or the black area, so that it would be the red within commercial, and that category provides basically the general commercial services. You have retail, offices, mixed uses that can serve basically that area and the local and regional and traveling public. So we look at the future, the focus area, which would be the West Prairie focus area. It is kind of identified there by the arrow just in the middle to the south, right along Pleasant View Road. That would be highlighted out there as within the comprehensive plan as the other West Prairie areas may warrant commercial use considerations if adjacent to arterial collector streets where traffic volumes exceed 4,000 vehicles per day. With Pleasant View Road and Celtice Way both being arterials, that does kind of meet that criteria for that location for the focus area. Looking at some of the goals and policies for review criteria 2, which we can note goal 1, 5, and 7. So we look at grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity and fiscal health. And then we also have keeping the Post Falls neighborhood safe, viable, and attractive. And then we also look at plan for and establish types and quantities of land uses in Post Falls, supporting community needs and city's long-term sustainability. So you can see that those are outlined there. A couple other goals that were mentioned within the staff report is maintain the city's Post Falls long-term fiscal health, and then involving the community in Post Falls in all local government planning and decision-making, which is why we're here tonight. Some of the policies, and as John mentioned earlier, these are supporting of the goals. We look at policy 1, supporting land use patterns, maintaining or enhancing the community level service, long-term fiscal health again, and then enhance resident quality of life. Being commercial, you could provide amenities within this proposed zone, which would help kind of the residents' quality of life, providing those services to the community. We have promoting compatible and well-designed development. As you know, the city has standards for commercial development that need to be met as well through the permitting and planning process. And then we look at implementing goals and policies of the comprehensive plan in related to master plan and or facility plan, so which is what we're going through currently. Policy 2 supports the goals by applying or revising zoning designations with careful considerations of the following factors, which we discussed: future land use mapping as well as compatibility with surrounding land uses, primarily being surrounded by commercial. They're requesting commercial for their zoning, so that does kind of meet that compatibility for the zoning aspect. We'll look at infrastructure and existing future traffic patterns in the upcoming slide, and then again, we're covering the goal and policies currently, and it's also outlined in the staff report in more depth. So kind of highlighting the infrastructure and service plans, the city's water and reclamation systems have the capacity to provide service, and the city is willing to serve the property at the requested zoning that they want. And so staff has commented on that after their review, and we can serve and support the systems in that regard. Looking at traffic patterns for existing and future, as I mentioned a little bit ago, Celtice Way and Pleasant View Road, both arterials, and so future traffic patterns to and from this site are benefited from the connectivity at that signalized intersection at Celtice and Pleasant View Road. Access to the site would be limited due to the Pleasant View Road being identified as a critical arterial corridor by the KMPO, and Celtice Way being a principal arterial. Furthering, looking at some of the policies, 5, 8, and 9, looking at that direct location of commercial shopping centers to areas near arterial intersections of high traffic areas. Again, that's kind of been covered with the arterial roadways and kind of that traffic pattern aspect. 8 and 9 looks at the infill development as well as county islands. So since this is incorporated on all sides by the city, it does classify as an island, and it would be kind of infill development as it's currently not being vacated with, or it's currently vacant with not being developed and surrounding by kind of some of the other commercial development. So that would be a little bit of infill development for commercial. Policy 24 and 26 look at transportation, making sure there's continuity of sidewalks, trails, adequate rights of way for future corridors, including utility facilities. So all this is basically being met through that incorporation into the city and making sure that city standards are met, and any additional rights of way are needed and maintained and acquired. Policy 33 and 45, kind of as John mentioned in the first hearing, that these are kind of more geared towards city council and a placeholder for them when it gets presented to them, but we do look at this aspect here as well just to kind of get guidance. And then review criteria 3, looking at that adverse impact upon delivery of systems by the political subdivision, providing services within the city. So again, notice the jurisdictions and the agencies. You can see them listed here. Out of that list, basically what was commented on were Post Falls School District, remaining neutral, Cooney County Fire and Rescue, reserves comments for the permitting process as they develop, when they develop. And then the Post Falls Police Department remains neutral. Panhandle Health District, they have no jurisdiction as if sewer services are provided. And then the Post Falls Highway District has no comment. So out of these replies after the notice to jurisdiction was sent out, there was no adverse impact noted or commented on, so I believe this review criteria would be met in that regard. With that being said, I would stand for any questions you have for staff regarding the DeAtley annexation.
I have a question for you. I see it's a bit of a county island. When did the property to the north annex in?
That was with the Pleasant View annexation, Pleasant View North annexation, I believe, if my
The
memory serves.
URD annexation?
Yep,
Part of that big,
Correct, yeah, where there was multiple properties all the way up to, forgot the road name, but up north almost to,
Grange?
53?
I think, yeah.
It's pretty
Prairie. I might go to
It went
beyond
past,
Prairie.
it went past Prairie, almost to the,
Yeah,
about
Yeah.
about a half mile north of Prairie.
just before the roundabout, I believe. So,
Has there been
Yeah.
any movement on that, as far as city services or anything moving in there?
yeah, engineering department has commented on that. I'll let Rob if he wants to handle that more, but there's been further discussions kind of along those improvements, bringing sewer in and kind of looking at that aspect. So, I mean, annexing this would potentially get you closer, moving north, so they would have to provide services most likely, you know, as that develops from the south to the north of the property. So sewer would be provided in some way or form if they want to develop that site on the northern end. That makes sense.
I'd be interested to hear what Rob has to say on that.
Sure.
For sure.
Commissioner Slothauer, members of the commission, Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. In terms of the utilities going up the Pleasant View corridor, sewer, at least from a force main design standpoint, and water are partially designed at this point. They are not completed. We're waiting for more development to move forward. There's a couple of potential developments out there that would trigger the installation of those improvements. The city is also working with one of the property owners north of Prairie Avenue on the acquisition of the lands, which was part of their annexation agreement for a reservoir, well, and lift station site to the far north. The entire area is part of an urban renewal area, so that as the utilities go in, certain improvements would be reimbursed. And then there would be a time frame as to, after the initial force mains, water main go in, as growth occurs in the area, we would then see the roadway widen out to a full 5-lane facility over time. Is that enough of a broad
So the
brush?
force main, is it going up Pleasant View from
The
southeast?
force main would go from Celtice Way all the ways to Prairie Avenue. And ultimately, there would be 2 lift stations serving that area. One, about a third of the way north of Celtice Way, and then the other one is north of Prairie itself.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right. The applicant would like to come up, present. Name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Devin Meacham of Black Commercial Inc. in Spokane. Address is 306 Parker Court, Colbert, Washington, 99005. I'm representing the Yukon Corporation and Matt DeAtley. I don't have anything further to add to what Ethan has done. Ethan's done an amazing job holding my hand through this process. So it's I'm open for any questions that you may have, but I don't have anything further to add.
Do you have any plans for the property?
Their plans are to sell it. So we have it listed for sale right now, and that was actually what triggered the annexation process. So there's a subdivision meeting, I believe, next week as well, to cut up a portion of the 1 acre off the hard corner, and then the remainder will all stay intact as one parcel. But yeah, the goal of the sellers is to, or of the owners is to sell the property.
Any other questions? All righty, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. All right, no need for rebuttal then. All right, we'll close out the hearing and go through our review criteria. All right, same three as the previous one. In the proposed zoning district, and is it consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan? What does everybody think?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Feels
they're,
to be like, be
Very plainly.
specific, come on.
yeah, they're,
Help him write a decision here.
yeah, they're asking for commercial. It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they're asking for commercial, there's commercial,
Commercial all
industrial
around.
all around it, so definitely
Right.
fits for that.
Future land use designation
Originally, yeah,
is
future.
commercial.
It's commercial, yeah.
And the focus area speaks to commercial in in both corridors, both the Pleasant View corridor as well as the Southeast Way corridor.
Yep. On some main roadways there too. All right, criteria 2, please. Is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan that are relevant to the area under consideration?
So yeah, this is consistent with policy 9, or I believe it was 9. Yeah, encourage annexation of a county island. This is surrounded 100% by a city. It is a county island. Of course, policy 8, infill development of vacant areas within the city. That is part of this. With regards to transportation corridors, and policy 24, it includes right-of-way acquisition for Pleasant View, which is going to be very important as an arterial. I think the acquisition of Prairie Avenue, or not Prairie, Southeast Way is already done. So it meets the transportation master plan with regards to both Southeast Way and Pleasant View. Let's see, I can go through land use. Policy 1 supports land use patterns. So this is a land use pattern that is consistent with both the land use and a proposed zoning that would be consistent with the land use adjacent to, across the street, with the surrounding land uses, which is important. Anyone else want to jump in here on any of these?
I think you got most of them.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Come on, Ross. I know you had 1 or 2 in there, didn't you?
I think
Oh,
that's good.
okay.
Yeah. And the final one here, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services by any political subdivision providing public services within the city?
And there was none
Appears as
provided
though
by
none.
any of the
Yep.
political subdivisions or anyone. As a matter of fact, probably the opposite is that it'll have a positive impact by providing, extension of water, sewer, and widening of roadways. Widening of roadways upon development.
Yeah. Right. Any final commissioner comments on this one?
No.
I think this one is definitely has some a lot of good things with it because it's in that urban renewal district as it gets developed and that whole area gets developed. Pleasant View will, a lot more services will be able to go north. The roads will get wider, bigger, sidewalks, things like that. More connections.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, it's not in the
It's
urban
not in
renewal.
the district,
It's
though, is
not?
it?
It's adjacent.
It's
It's
adjacent
adjacent?
to
Oh,
it,
okay.
but
But
it
it's
couldn't
kind
be
of a-
in the district because it wasn't annexed into the city at that point in time.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's
Bob
not
told
in
me
the district.
Ask Bob real quick, the right-of-way portion is in the urban renewal, but not the
Correct.
property itself.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, the right away. Okay.
So, which is also a
fair.
benefit to the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Gotcha. All right. All right, with that being said, somebody like to make a motion, please?
you've got the cheat sheet over there.
I got the cheat sheet. Yeah, but it's the old one.
Gotta get Kibby to do one.
One of these days.
Okay, I will, I move to recommend approval to the city council of the DeAtley, I'm sorry, apologize, DeAtley Annexation ANNX-23-1 with a zoning recommendation of CCS with the inclusion of items, the 3 items noted in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor,
I'll second.
and we have a second. We have a roll call, please.
Carrie,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Walton,
Yes.
Schottenhauer,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes. All right, moving on to item 5 on the agenda is administrative and staff reports.
There's none.
There is none. Item 6, any commissioner comments?
No?
I will just say thank you to John or whoever did this for updating the school numbers and reaching out and getting that done. So, get the new
That's Nancy.
Nancy, thank you. We can see how those are actually. Okay. All right, item 7 is the last item of there. Who would like to make a motion?
Move to adjourn.
All right, got a second?
Second.
Second, adjourned.
That one, that